Welcome to this virtual tour of the Knox Church Cemetery. Our historic cemetery is located on the property of Knox United Church on the northeast corner of Midland and Sheppard Avenues in Agincourt. The earliest settlers to Agincourt emigrated, mostly from Scotland, in the late 18th up until the mid-19th centuries. Upon arrival, many of these pioneers established family farms or small businesses in the tiny village of Agincourt, Scarborough. In 1848, a small group of these families founded Knox's Church, Scarborough, at the intersection of Main Street, now Sheppard Avenue East, and Church Street, present-day Midland Avenue, where it still stands today as Knox United Church, Agincourt. The first wooden one-room place of worship was built on 1 acre of land donated by Thomas McKee Kennedy as his contribution to the new church. Pictured below is the original one-room Knox's Church. Jane Nicol Armstrong is the earliest recorded burial in the Knox Church Cemetery. She was born in Roxburghshire, Scotland, in July 1782. Jane died in December 1832 at the age of 50 years. Her burial took place almost 16 years before Knox's Church was founded. This early date lends credence to the belief that this site was initially a pioneer burial ground. Jane was the wife of Adam Armstrong, who was buried alongside his wife on April 26, 1857. The inscription on Jane Nicol's tombstone reads, Jane Nicol died December the 5th, 1832, aged 50 years. This tombstone, in memory of John and Mary Lauder, represents another of the earliest burials in our cemetery. Mary Tennant Lauder died in December 1836 at 53 years of age. Her husband, John Lauder, aged 71 years, was interred here in December 1849, shortly after Knox's Church, Scarborough, was established. Throughout our cemetery, you will notice that many people died at a very early age in comparison to our lifespans today. Throughout the cemetery grounds are recorded the deaths of many young children, as well as those of women who died in childbirth. This gravestone in the Knox Church Cemetery is in memory of William Clark Sr. and his wife Isabel Stevenson Clark. William Clark and his wife Isabella, along with their 11 children, immigrated to Scarborough from Ayrshire, Scotland in 1838. He had been ordained in 1830 to the Presbyterian session in Scotland. The Clark family farmed at the intersections of present-day Kennedy Road and Finch Avenue, which was known in earlier days as Clark's Corners. William's wife Isabel died just before Knox Church was opened in October 1848 and is buried in Streetsville. In 1849, William Sr. married Margaret Crawford. William played a leading part in making the formation of our church a reality. William Clark was on the first session of Knox in 1848. William Sr. also served on Scarborough Council from 1853 to 1858 and was deputy reeve for 5 of those years. Thomas McKee Kennedy and Jane Montgomery Kennedy. The Thomas McKee Kennedy family donated 1 acre of their land as their contribution to the building of Knox's Church, Scarborough, in 1848. In December 1871, the Presbyterian Church of Canada purchased an adjoining acre from Mr. Kennedy in order to expand the cemetery grounds. Another 1/5 of an acre was subsequently acquired in 1911 to square out the present Knox Cemetery. One of Toronto's busiest streets, Kennedy Road in Scarborough, is named for the pioneering Kennedy family. To this day, descendants of the Kennedy clan continue to worship at Knox United Church. William Ferguson and Annie Campbell Ferguson. The Ferguson family emigrated from Glasgow, Scotland, and settled in Malvern, where William worked as a pump maker. William Ferguson and his wife Annie were among the 40 original congregants when Knox Church was founded in 1848. William was an elder for 40 years. For many of those years, he also served as a presenter, using a tuning fork and his hearty voice to lead the singing of hymns during worship services. In that day, it was frowned upon to use a piano or organ in a place of worship. In June 2000, a stained glass window insert depicting the 10 Commandments was dedicated at Knox in memory of William Ferguson and Morley Meinecker, who married into the Ferguson family. William's and Annie's great-great-granddaughter worships here at Knox and is a longtime active member of the Knox United Church Women's Group. Marshall and Mary Jackson Macklin emigrated from Ireland in 1828 and settled on a farm to the northwest of our church. Together, Marshall and Mary raised 17 children. The Macklin Forest Farmhouse, built in 1851, is a historic site that still stands on Macklin Gate Court near Brimley Road and McNichol. Macklin Public School in the Milliken community is named in honor of this Scarborough pioneer family. The names of 3 daughters of Mary and Marshall are engraved on one side of the Macklin stone. Mary Ann died August 4, 1847, at the age of 9 months and 10 days. Almost 3-year-old Mary passed on April 9, 1856, while her big sister Selena died 2 days later at 4 years. Sadly, it is very common to find the names of many young children among those early settlers buried in the Knox Cemetery. The 8.1-hectare Brimley Woods Park on Brimley Road between Finch and McNichol was once part of the Macklin farm. Many of the trees in these woods are 100 to 200 years old. Paul Macklin Bolton and Mona Barley Bolton. Paul Macklin Bolton is the grandson of the aforementioned Marshall and Mary Macklin. While practicing medicine in Los Angeles, Paul met Mona Barley, a stage and screen actress. Married in 1938, the couple remained childless. Paul and Mona rest together here in the Knox Cemetery. Under her stage name, Mona Berry, Mrs. Macklin starred in more than 50 films during the 1930s and 40s, as well as performing on stages across the U.S. She was mainly cast in supporting roles, as she was not thought to be beautiful enough to be a leading lady. She received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960. Reverend R.P. McKay and Mrs. R.P. Mackay, his wife, Maggie Smith. The Reverend R.P. Mackay ministered here at Knox from 1877 through till 1884. Sadly, his wife, Maggie Smith, who was very active in our church, died at the age of 26 years in 1881, quite likely in childbirth, as the couple's daughter Margaret was born in that same year. This imposing granite monument was erected by the assistance of the ladies of Knox and Melville congregations to the memory of Maggie Smith. In 1884, Reverend Mackay answered the call to serve at Parkdale Presbyterian Church. He later served for over 3 decades as Foreign Missions Secretary and, from 1911 through 1912, as the moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Canada. In 1929, Reverend Mackay was laid to rest beside his beloved wife Maggie in the Knox Church Cemetery, Agincourt. William Nicol and Annie Thompson Nicol. William's wife, Annie Thompson, is descended from David and Mary Thompson, who were the first white settlers to make their home in Scarborough. In 1872, William Nicol supplied the first load of bricks needed to build the new Knox Church building, which is still in use today. For their generosity, William and Annie received a rent-free pew for the rest of their days. William also served as a trustee at Knox. James Alexander Rennie and Elizabeth Jane Macklin Rennie. James Rennie's tombstone is very unusual and tells something of the interests of this man. 2 curling rocks, minus their handles, are mounted on top, where wooden bowling pins once stood. Rumor has it that a competition sprang up between 2 branches of James's family in an effort to lay claim to the biggest monument in the cemetery. If you visit our cemetery, perhaps you can locate the rival tombstone on your walkabout. The resultant animosity caused the 2 families to refuse to speak to each other for the rest of their lives. The original metal inscription on the monument has slowly deteriorated and partially disappeared over many years. This inscription reads, James Alexander Rennie, 1872 to 1921, his wife, Elizabeth Jane Macklin, 1877 to 1945. Leslie Howard Miller and Mary I. Miller. Leslie Miller was a learned man who loved people, nature, and languages. He spoke 6 languages. In October 1914, while teaching in Saskatchewan, he enlisted in the Canadian Army, later transferring to the Signal Corps. In 1915, Leslie arrived in France, where he served as a communications expert until the armistice was signed in October 1918. Miller rose through the ranks and received a field commission to first lieutenant in 1918. Having been raised on the Miller family farm near Kennedy Road in Agincourt, Leslie Miller was very interested in nature. While serving in France, he spent much of his free time writing and sketching in his diary about the trees and wildflowers he saw. He fought in the bloody Battle of Vimy Ridge in 1917, in which Canadian troops won a costly victory. After the battle was over, this young soldier and nature lover was saddened to witness the charred landscape and to realize that not one oak tree had survived the intense shelling. Miller gathered acorns from these destroyed trees, mailed them to his family in Agincourt, and, after his return home from war, planted them on his Agincourt farm, which he named the Vimy Oaks Farm. Today, the mighty oak trees that grew from these acorns dot the landscape on the property of the Scarborough Baptist Chinese Church, where the Miller farm once stood near Kennedy Road and McNichol Avenue. The story of the Vimy Oaks is available for young readers at the Toronto Public Library. Read on to discover what this seemingly small action by one young Canadian soldier has grown into in the century that followed. Now, more than a century after the Great War, World War I, ended, oaks descended from those original Vimy acorns have begun growing at parks, schools, and cenotaphs across Canada. One of these grandchildren of the Vimy Ridge oak trees is planted close by Leslie Miller's grave in the Knox Church cemetery, where it is marked by a plaque. Acorns gathered from the oak trees on Miller's former property were, in 2016, flown to France. In 2018, French school children planted 100 of these fledgling oaks in a new centennial park beside the Canadian National Vimy Memorial. And here you see a picture of French children helping to plant Leslie Miller's Vimy oaks. On the right side of the page is the Canadian Memorial at Vimy, France. The 4-day Battle of Vimy Ridge killed 3,598 Canadians. It was the first time Canada's 4 military divisions fought side by side on the same battlefield. Victory at Vimy is often credited with helping to shape our nation. The site is a memorial to all Canadians who served their country in battle during the Great War of 1914 to 1918. Another resident for eternity in the Knox Church Cemetery is Robert T. Lang and his wife, Janet Young Lang. This is the story of the big Agincourt bank heist in which Mr. Lang figured prominently. In 1906, Agincourt was one of the most financially prosperous of Scarborough's villages due to its proximity to 2 railroads. As a result, a modern convenience, the Metropolitan Bank, opened on Church Street, now Midland Avenue, south of Main Street, which is now Sheppard Avenue, in that year. In 1914, the Metropolitan, now located in a new brick structure on the south side of Main Street, just west of Church, was absorbed by and renamed the Bank of Nova Scotia. Robert Thompson Lang became the manager of the Metropolitan Bank in 1907 and continued in that position with the newly named Bank of Nova Scotia. In the spring of 1919, Agincourt residents were becoming concerned by the number of robberies occurring in the area. By all accounts, Robert Lang was an upstanding resident of the village of Agincourt and a very active member of both the Agincourt Masonic Lodge and Knox Church. Lang led a busy but largely uneventful life. That is, until May 20th, 1919. On that day, at about 12:45 p.m., Mr. Lang had locked the main safe and was preparing to lock the bank door before leaving on his way to lunch. His young teller, Grace Chapman, had decided to eat at her desk and catch up on some work. At that moment, Mr. Lang was approached by a young man who asked for change for a $5 bill. Obligingly, Mr. Lang returned and opened the safe. Just then, a second young man knocked on the door and was admitted to the bank. Unaware that Miss Chapman was at her desk at the back of the bank, both men leaped over the counter and pointed their guns at Mr. Lang. Because of some suspicious activity a few days previously, Mr. Lang had taken the precaution of placing a firearm in the walk-in safe. Picking up this pistol, Mr. Lang turned and fired at the two robbers, wounding the man, later identified as Jack Putwain, in the eye. Having been shot in the abdomen by one of the gunmen, Mr. Lang also fell to the floor of the bank. The second thief, Harold Boyes, ran into the manager's office where Miss Chapman was hiding. As he prepared to shoot again at Miss Lang, Grace Chapman lunged at Boyes and knocked the gun out of his hand. Panicked, Boyes ran out the bank door to a waiting car he had left idling, with the wounded Robert Lang in hot pursuit. According to witnesses, Mr. Lang, from the porch of the bank, shot several times at the fleeing Model T Ford as it sped westbound along Main Street. When Boyes was later captured at the home of Jack Putwain's sister in East York, it was discovered that Robert Lang had shot him 7 times as he fled the scene, the most serious being a wound to the abdomen. After undergoing surgery to remove this bullet, Boyes suddenly took a turn for the worse and died the following day. In the meantime, Agincourt business owners and passers-by, after hearing the shots, rushed to the bank. 2 local doctors tended to the gunshot victims, Mr. Lang and Mr. Putwain. Another resident notified County Constable William Hobbs at his home in Agincourt, while Mr. James Kennedy, who operated the Bell Telephone Exchange in the village, called Scarborough Township Police. Jack Putwain and Robert Lang were rushed to Toronto General Hospital and into the operating room. Permanently disabled by his wounds, Jack Putwain was released from the Toronto jail farm in 1921. He continued to live a life of crime around Ontario. Robert Lang, after spending time recuperating from his wounds, returned to his home in Agincourt and to his position as manager of the Bank of Nova Scotia until his retirement. Both he and Grace Chapman were given an extra paid vacation for their heroism. The events of May 20th, 1919 undoubtedly shook the quiet village of Agincourt to its very core. It is hard to believe that this was the very first bank robbery in Scarborough. Unfortunately, as we all know, it would not be the last. Robert Thompson Lang passed away in Agincourt on March the 10th, 1934, and is buried in the Knox Church Cemetery. His wife, Janet Isabella Young, joined him just 6 weeks later, after a lengthy illness. In April 1994, their only daughter, Marjorie Wyatt, was laid to rest at Knox. Mr. Lang was also Great Uncle Bob to Knox member Marg Walker. In 1987, an urn garden was opened and dedicated as the Knox Church Memorial Garden. The garden was upgraded and expanded in 2008. The Memorial Garden is located in the South Cemetery alongside Midland Avenue. Knox's Church Scarborough was established in 1848 as a member of the Free Presbyterian Church. In 1925, a majority of the members of Knox voted to join the newly formed United Church of Canada. However, a sizable minority of Knox members wished to remain under the auspices of the Presbyterian Church. This group made a decision to build a new Knox Presbyterian Church on the north side of Sheppard Avenue, just west of Midland. As parishioners of both Knox churches have many family members and friends buried in our cemetery, Knox Church Cemetery is shared between present-day Knox United Church and its sister church, Knox Presbyterian.